Hi, we are here today to do a quarantine video for Mars in the Second. So I don't really like to do introductions for like planets or houses. I kind of just get right into it. But Mars is about aggression, it's about hard work and sex drive. And second house is about money, income, possessions, and what you value. So let's get started. If you have Mars in the Second, you're probably very protective about your items. And these are people who don't want to share, or as kids or adults, or if they share with you, they'll give you a lot of instructions like, yeah, you can hold my phone, but you got to sit down and you can't drop it and you got to use two hands, and it just takes the fun out of interacting with the item sometimes if you feel like there's so much pressure or so much rules on it. These people, if you do accidentally break one of their items, they're going to be very upset, especially because they really honestly didn't want to share in the first place. And then if they did, they probably either consciously or subconsciously like gave some of that energy off that they didn't want you to have. A lot of times they might be very bossy because that's like Mars, or like give a lot of instruction. Like I said, sit down, hold it with two hands, do it like this, do it like that. So if they go through all that and still manage to give it to you and you break it, they're gonna be very upset. And also if you don't give it back. If you break it and don't give it back, that's kind of like the same thing. They're still like, oh my God, where's my thing? These are people who are ready to fight for their items. So if you break their phone or anything, they'll probably, like with Mars, they might hit you, probably yell at you, curse at you, throw something at you. They're gonna be really upset if you mishandle their things in any way or don't give it back to them exactly the way that they gave it to you. Yeah, so very much ready to fight for their items. They're also going to feel the exact same way if you take their items and don't tell them. Even if you give it back to them and say, oh, I just borrowed it for whatever, or here it is, and they didn't even know it was gone. They're going to be upset because in their mind there was danger or unpredictability around their items, and they didn't like that. Mars in the Second is like a soldier that's guarding a bunch of like china in like a glass case. And so if you mess with it anyway, even if you put it back, like I said, nicely, they're gonna be mad. Do not take anything without asking, and even if you ask, you might get a no, or it's gonna be like just a very supervised interaction with whatever the thing is. These people are very strong. Mars is fortified here, so it doesn't mind working hard to get what it wants. And working hard could be whatever that means for that Mars individual, however they choose to work. If they choose to work like, maybe they make $12 an hour, but they work like 60 hours a week, or maybe they work a very stressful job, like mentally stressful. They could work a physically stressful job. Whatever they have to do to push past the normal, quote unquote, limits of what people do for work, they don't mind doing that if they feel like there's money, like a pot of gold at the end of the tunnel. If they feel like they're gonna get more money out of it, then they don't mind putting themselves through hardship that a lot of people might say, that's not worth it. I don't really wanna do this job, or I feel like it's unsafe, or it's cold, or I don't like the elements, or whatever. That doesn't really scare a Mars in the Second person, because the ultimate goal is money. And so the intermediate hard work you'd have to do in between is like, it's kind of like not important. And if they want something, they'll have a lot of motivation and a lot of drive to go get it. These are not people who will really sit and look at something through a window or fantasize about something. The second that any of us feels this desire, like, ooh, I want that thing, to say myself, anytime that we feel that desire, I would like this material item, the Mars in the Second person feels like super energized. It's like them drinking a Red Bull, because it just energizes them. Just the idea of having it energizes them to work harder to go get it. And they're also not scared to do work that maybe like a lot of more people would be scared to do, or just wouldn't want to do, or wouldn't think it was worth it to do. Mars in the Second, if they want something, they'll be so inspired. This is a classic tale of like, if you have Mars in the Second, you're like a teenager, maybe you're 13 and you're riding past something in the window and you see it and you really want it. You're the type that's like, your friends might look at it and be like, wow, that's cool, I want that. And they might just go home and you'll just be thinking about it, and you can't stop feeling restless and just like, because you got to get that Martian energy out. You have to attain it and grab it and go get it. So you'll like start a paper route, or I don't know, whatever 13-year-olds can think of to do to get some money because you want the thing so bad. I read a lot about this, and as a side note, I try to just put on this astrology channel my views and what I've observed and what I feel like is correct about something. And that doesn't always line up with what I read online, but sometimes it does. So I was reading a lot about people with Mars in the second having a very deep and strong voice. They could be like motivational speakers, people that would just be like good to get you up in the morning. The second house, well, Taurus really can be about like the throat and the voice, and so the second house somewhat correlates to that, not as much. I would think if you had Mars and Taurus, this would apply a little bit more. Very strong, deep, steady voice. So the voice with like a lot of baritone maybe, but a voice that doesn't crack or waver or sound. Just has so much depth to it and strength in any type of angle that you would want to look at a voice. So I was thinking maybe like a motivational speaker, but I feel like that's more Mars in the third. But the actual physical voice is strong. Like my voice is like high and kind of pitchy, and you know, that's how it is no matter how I talk. If I'm talking deeper or lighter, it's kind of, so it's always this what's the word, modified version of my original voice, but their original voice is very like robust. This Mars is similar to Mars in Capricorn because they don't really mind working hard for something. Mars in Capricorn is working hard though for the success, and that's everything. That's title, that's home, you know, zip code, that's title of your job, title, like education level. It's all those outer worldly things. But this Mars is similar. It will work just as hard, but for a different reason. This Mars is working just as hard for the money. Mars in Capricorn is working just as hard, but for a plethora of things. And sometimes those things are intangible. But no, these people are purely for the money. And like I said before, they'll do jobs that a lot of people won't. For example, like you might have like a $40 or $50 an hour construction job, but it's very dangerous. And to them, to some people, people might say, I don't want to work with this machinery. I don't want to possibly get my thumb cut off or work underground or work in the cold or in pipes. And it's like, that doesn't deter them at all. All they hear is $40 an hour. And so they do whatever it takes in that time to get closer to their goal, which is always more money and more things. This is somebody who's going to want a very close hand, and possibly probably the only hand in their financial affairs. They don't really want to have like a guy, like a tax guy or a financial advisor or somebody that's a manager handling their finances. They don't really want anybody in it. They're just like, no, I got it. I'll do it. I'll take care of it. And they want to be in charge of everything because that very like bossy Martian energy, and they want to oversee everything so they can make sure it's done their way. Again, Mars. Yeah, so they're not going to do a lot of consulting, a lot of planning with other people about their finances. They're not going to let anybody near it or have any power or control about it. Even if they should, even if you're someone who's like a singer or an entertainer, or you just have like a lot of things that might be hard for any one person to try to manage on their own, they'll always try to step up to that plate themselves because they don't really trust them. They just don't want anybody near their things. This could even go as far as to people not trusting banks or institutions, or people who kind of just like keep their money under their bed. Just somebody who wants to be like a night guard of it at all times, just always sitting in front of it, guarding it, staking it out. They don't want the possibility that they put in the bank and the bank is not open, or that they invested and they lose. And I like to think that people who have stuff in the second house are like pretty smart with money, but I feel like if your Mars is here, you might be more just kind of like a brute. Just imagine like a dumb, like Viking kind of guy over the money. Just because you're more aggressive and more safeguarding doesn't mean you're taking better care of it, because people who truly are financially well off can do things like invest, put it in CDs, put it in banks, buy things, invest in businesses. Like, this Martian energy is just very barbaric and very much like, no, I want my money in a bag. I want the bag roped off, and I want it sitting right here. And I don't want anybody to come near me, or it's like I'm shooting. And that's not always the best way to handle your finances. In fact, I would say that's rarely the best way to handle it. But that's the energy of this Mars. They're like, no, I wanna safeguard it. I'll watch it. Everybody else just get out. These people, and this is my biggest point probably today, these people are not opposed at all from stealing from other people. I think there's so many manifestations of this. I mean, one thing that I can really think about is like a teenage girl in the mall, and she's just taking whatever she wants just because she wants it, and then like she might get caught by security. That whole scenario and analogy is just an exact perfect depiction, in my opinion, of Mars in the second, because it's this entitlement of, well, I see it and I want it, so I'm gonna take it. And it's like, well, it's not yours to take, or you don't have the money, enough money, or maybe the thing is not even for sale. But that, all those things don't matter if you have a Mars in the second. Like, you bypass that in your mind, and all that fuels you and all that you feel with your Martian energy is the desire for the object. So there's a real also sense of entitlement here, entitlement to things that aren't theirs. And I think a more even subdued everyday example are people who will take from you and not give it back. And I've encountered this more than I've encountered someone actually just like running in and stealing from something from you. But these are the people who will like say, oh, hey, you know, I borrowed your shirt, I'll give it back next Thursday. And it's like, well, you didn't even tell me that you borrowed it. And you know, it's Friday, Thursday has come and gone, and now it's Friday and not giving it back. So that type of entitlement or liberty that they take, audacity, boldness, thinking of words that like go with Mars towards other people's items that they just don't have. Because like I said earlier, if you were to do that to them, they'd be very upset. If you were to take something without asking, they'd be very upset. If you were to tell them when you're giving it back, they'd be very upset. If you didn't give it back at all, you know, you will encounter some conflict, possibly even some violence. But this is very selfish energy and a very selfish planet in a very selfish house. So they don't mind doing that to you. These are totally the types to be like, oh, you were sleeping and I just took 20 out your purse, I'll give it back. And then it's like, then they're ducking and dodging your phone calls or something for like a month or stuff like that. So I've had a few instances with people who were Mars in the second and they owed me stuff, and anytime I would like bring it up, they would say, oh, I'm busy right now, I'll call you right back. Or they would call me back and act like we didn't talk about it, or they would just keep playing games or not answering the phone. So it wasn't that they ran in and stole something, but it was more just like this tight-fisted, no, this is mine now, you gave it to me, it's in my hand, it's mine, I'm not giving it, I'm not sharing, even though it's technically yours. And also, even though if you did it to them, they would be highly upset, the most upset of any, you know, sun sign, sun whatever combination. So yeah, like I said, they're ready to fight for their items. They also, it's a very illogical energy. They'll also fight you for your items if they want something of yours. This is truly just a very primitive feeling, just a desire for something, that they'll take it even if it doesn't belong to them. They feel like entitled, they feel like it's theirs, and once they have their hands on it, now they feel like it's mine now. And so if you try to take it, then they'll fight you, even though it might be your item. These are the people who will take your favorite shirt or your favorite cup. You know, let's say you're all like brothers and sisters living in a house, and they'll say, no, 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 this is my cup now, this is my shirt. And you'll say, no, and you try to argue, but it doesn't matter. They've already convinced themselves in their mind that this is my thing, and they're not going to give it back, even if it's not theirs. Even if they originally got it by taking it from someone else, in their mind, they feel like, well, it's mine now. And then that's how they proceed. These are people who usually do accumulate a lot of wealth, and they can accumulate it by stealing. And now this can be literally, you know, stealing from your job, or stealing from anywhere. I'm assuming if you're accumulating wealth, though, that's like a more broad, where you're not just stealing $20 one time, you're stealing like a revenue source from somewhere. People usually do that at work, and this could be everyday examples of like a waitress who will sign her own receipt because she feels like she hasn't gotten tipped enough, or somebody who will say, hey, you want 4 sodas, it's $10, and not ever ring in the sodas, just take the $10. So if you can imagine someone doing that in any setting where you can try to still, you know, shave a little off the top. If you can imagine someone shaving something off the top multiple times a day, every time they go to work, this person's probably also stealing things from others, stealing things from stores, undercutting people as far as paying, complaining about things so that they don't have to pay. If you're that much of a, I don't want to say cheapskate because it's not about the energy of cheapness, but something like that, then you could probably amass a lot over time, or you can figuratively amass wealth. And this is what a lot of people do on a larger scale of, just imagine like a CEO, like CEO of Walmart, and they're making like millions and billions of dollars, but you're paying people like $10 an hour. I don't know what the Walmart rate is, but I'm just making stuff up. That is kind of like figuratively robbing somebody. You're getting so much and you're pulling so much in from the backs of these people, but you won't give. It's just all mine, take, safeguard my stuff, my things. You so everything can come in, but you're so like critical and micromanaging of anything that goes out. So in another way, you can amass wealth by stealing, or just by being really cheap and just really tight-fisted. Imagine Mars is Martian energy, second house is things. I'm grabbing my things. These are my things, and I'm not letting them go. I feel like another example is Uber. Uber always cutting pay for people, just redoing the formula, the equation of how people get paid, so that they can constantly just be shaving more and more of the top and just be bringing more and more in. That's another way of like Mars in the second, just being greedy and just really figuratively taken out of the pockets of others. These are people who I truly feel, unfortunately to say, cannot be trusted with money. They're usually very underhanded from my own personal experience, but they'll be very upset if you do that to them. So these are people, if you know someone with Mars in the second, I would suggest just keeping your things safe and away, and staying away from their things, and trying to avoid all that conflict and tension that like could arise. Mars is also about sex, so a little bit about it. I feel like your sexuality comes out with your Mars more with the signs than in the houses, but I think the houses have somewhat of an effect. So here is what I feel. Things that will turn them on. Money, of course, just flat out money, being around money, feeling like you're in the presence of somebody with money, being in a place where you know there's a lot of money, whether it be a bank or a mansion, or you're dating someone who has a lot. The fact that you know money is near, or you can see evidence of it in your life, whether it be the car or the house that you're in or the restaurant you went to on a date, you see money in your, and not literal like bands of money, but you see money in your environment, and that in itself is a turn on to you. They have a very slow and spontaneous pace. This is a house of Taurus, so it's not like super energetic or wild or spontaneous. It's not Uranus. It's you know, stick to what you know, build up to it very slowly, very smoothly, in a very luxurious environment, and that goes a long way for Mars in the second. Caressing of the neck, like I said, it's about the neck and the throat, second house in Taurus, and Mars is a very strong, fortified planet. They might have a very strong, thick neck, just a neck like a tree trunk. May have a very beautiful neck and may be very turned on by the neck. So kisses to the neck, caressing the neck, just being near the neck is a big thing for second house Mars. Ironically, and I feel like the karmic energy of this placement is that these people may break or destroy a lot of their things, either on purpose or by accident. Imagine Mars, which is like even if you imagine the symbol Mars, it's like a circle with like a sword. It's, just imagine like a sword or a weapon, and then imagine the second house of being, like I said, this room where there's all these like fine china and sensitive things, and so you've got this very, it's almost like bouncing a basketball, like right next to a museum vase that's not encased. It's like these people naturally are very aggressive. They take pride and they take value in their strength and their physical ability. And so yeah, so when you have this person who's surrounded by things that are supposed to be very luxurious, they might break them sometimes. A lot of times it's by accident, by being too rough, whether you're playing around and you threw your phone and it actually cracked, or if you were doing a backflip and you backflipped into the TV, if you drop something slipped and dropped out of your hand. Just all these ways that you might accidentally be being too rough and break your own items. And I find the irony in this is to go through so much work, so much stealing, so much tension and conflict with others to acquire these things, that even when you have them, no matter how you got them, but usually if you've stolen or, you know, come to it through dishonest means, you'll probably accidentally break it. Or you might be someone who breaks it or destroys it on purpose. These might be people who, when they get mad, like everyone takes their anger out in different ways. These are people who might just start breaking things or throwing things, and that's how they feel like they get their anger out. But then it's like the consequences. Damn, I worked so hard for this nice phone, and I got in an argument with my girlfriend or my boyfriend, and I threw it. That made me feel better, but now I don't have the nice phone that I worked so hard for. So it just feels like this cycle that just kind of doesn't make any sense sometimes. And like I said, therein lies the energy and better word is karma for this position. And Catfishology had a really good quote for, I don't know if it was under Mars in a second, who cares? Anyway, the quote was, the possessive attitude causes more pain than pleasure. So the more, and I'm gonna start getting into, because I know this hasn't been like the most upbeat video about a planet in a sign or a planet placement, but the energy really here is like the more possessive you are and the more you try to guard your things and take things and you want things, and the more you just go so hard for things, the more they'll be taken away from you. So karmically, I had a family member who has Mars in the second, and she is known throughout our family for stealing. And she'll admit it, and she has stolen quite a few things from me, and I watch her karma come back. I watch that Mars in the second energy go out and go in both ways. Like one day she's just sitting in the house, we're all just sitting in the house, and a car came past down a skinny windy street, sideswiped her car, totally messed up her door and her mirror and the bodywork and everything, and totally just skirted off. Her car mirror is laying on the ground in the street. She's like, oh my God, somebody did that to my car. Now, if you were to just isolate that incident and forget astrology and forget everything, then that's really not fair. Somebody came and destroyed her stuff and left. And she, like, by the time she heard it, they were like, just pulling off. So she has nowhere to press charges. Basically, the only thing she's left with is this bill. But if you think about it, think about the things that she was doing underhanded to me and underhanded to other people in our family. It's really just the universe and karma weighing things out. She's so aggressive to others that you'll be, and if you are second house Mars, you will be, if you are put aggressive with others or too aggressive about things, you'll be put in situations where you cannot express your aggression. Like you'll come out and your bike will be gone, or you'll come out and someone destroys your car, or you'll wake up and your shit is just gone, and you're just like, where's my stuff at? Or I don't even have a channel or a direction for where to put my anger at. I don't even know who to be angry at or what to be angry at. This is the type of stuff energetically and karmically where like you come outside and like a tree's falling on your truck or whatever, just stuff that you just really can't control, stuff that you didn't anticipate, stuff that you didn't mean. You just kind of have like a little bit ironically like bad luck with like the care and concern around your items, whether it be from you or from somebody else. The universe is gonna weigh it out and make it right. So sometimes they're gonna make you break it, sometimes you're just gonna come out, it's gone, or it's gonna be broken. And if you're more immature, then this energy is gonna manifest like you're just gonna be more angry, and you're just gonna like double down on your energy. You're just gonna work harder and steal more and take more. And if anything happens to a person's items who has Mars in the second, I'm sure that there's such a period after where they just feel entitled to take everything. Like these are the type of people who will come out and a tree fell on their car and they'll be like, fuck man, a tree fell on my car, and they're so mad, and then they'll like go to the store and they'll just steal a gallon of milk. And in their mind, they're like somehow making something right with the world. They're like balancing the scales out. Well, my car got messed up, so I'm gonna take this milk. And it's like, no, those two things don't even correlate. Your things, if there's something wrong with them, if you don't have enough, if you don't feel like you have enough, that is not anyone else's in the world's problem, and you do not have any entitlement or right to take it. But a lot of times if they're more immature, they'll double down on that energy, or they'll feel super entitled or super angry, or they'll just be like, they're just ready to fight. Basically, they want to take because they feel like something's been taken from them, so they just take from anyone. And the fact that they already have this energy, super easy to do, super easy to justify, and super easy to be violent or confrontational. Even if these are not really people who are prone to violence, they might just be super aggressive, super mean and nasty, because they just feel like, hey, like, I woke up and my shit is fucked up, so I'm gonna make sure that your guys' shit is fucked up too. And it's like, it's just such a childish way of being sometimes, because they're just not happy with how things are going in their life related to their ownership of things. The reason for this, Mars is a very aggressive planet. It has a lot of energy. There's a lot of energy going into the second house. Just imagine a lot of money going like with an arrow one way, and there's a lot of energy going out, a lot of energy going the other way. This could feel, especially if you're a more peaceful person. I know I've painted a picture of a very like cantankerous person, but let's just say like you're more peaceful. This energy will manifest as just always feeling like there's like a hole in the boat and you don't know where it's coming from. Like, you're just like, damn, like, why is there so much water in this boat? And you stop everything up and you do what you can. And for some reason, it's like you just feel like this. Like, you just feel like no matter what, your money is always like, I can't keep it. I can't keep it here. And that's because the house of your money has so much energy, and it's not just going any one way. It's going this way and that way and that way and that way and this way. It's going every way. So a lot of money will come in, and a lot of things will come in, and a lot of things will go out, whether they go out paying bills, repairs, replacing things, whether you're throwing stuff out, whether you're throwing things in the trash because you broke them. All these things represent things going in and things coming out. These people are very impulsive, extremely impulsive buyers. These are not people that you want to take to the mall. The mall is just a no-go, because these are people that are not going to think of the ramifications of a purchase. I mean, most level-headed people you would think would like be in a place, and whenever you buy something, any of us considers the ramifications of the purchase. Can I afford this? How much do I really want this? And is the cost that I'm going to pay for it versus how much I'm going to use it, are those things going to weigh and balance out? Do I feel like I'm going to get my money's worth? Stuff like that. Can I afford this right now? Maybe I have to pay my rent this week and come back and get it next week. These things do not cross the mind of a second house Mars person. These people are going to go get something if they want to get it. If they want it, they're going to buy it. And that's it, and anything else will come second, especially if it does come to paying bills, because remember, Mars wants. So they'll put all the money out in the world to bring things into their house, whether it be, you know, spending a lot of money on makeup at Sephora, spending a lot on video games, buying a new car or a new truck or a new toy, or whatever it is for each person's life. They don't mind putting that money out, but they don't really want to put money out for things like that they actually owe, like other people, like bills. These people are also going to be really aggressive in asking to borrow things. If they don't just take it, they'll just kind of like bully you or make you feel bad, or they're just not really going to take no for an answer. They're going to be like, hey, I need to borrow your car, and you just might be like, you know, no, I don't really trust you, or whatever your reason. And they're like, no, like they're going to stay in your face, and they're going to persist. No, I really need to borrow it. I'm just going down the street. And you're like, oh, no, it's like, hey, and they're just going to keep going and going and going until you feel just like you have to give in, or you feel too pressured, or whatever. And so when we're talking about Mars, even though confidence is, I feel like it's really more of like a sun thing, you do get a lot of confidence from your Mars, or maybe you don't have a lot of confidence. Confidence in your actions is more Mars specific. And if you have a lot of things, a lot of possessions, if you feel good about your second house, like I have good income, a lot of money constantly coming in, I've already acquired a lot of stuff, and I feel like I'm taking care of it, then you're gonna, no matter who you are, how evolved you are, your Mars will start to act in a more evolved way. You'll be self-confident very audacious, have a lot of audacity, but in a good way. You'll, you know, just feel good about yourself as you're moving throughout the world. You'll feel strong and confident and bold, but in a good way. When you feel like you don't have a lot of things, then you become the less evolved version of Mars. So you can become very irritable, cranky, snapping out. You can be confrontational. You can be violent. You can be rude. You can just be all the more negative aspects of Mars because you don't feel like what you have matches up. And that's another thing. It's very specific to each person, and you got to look at the whole chart and really look at their life as well, because what someone feels that they're entitled to may be very different than from what another person feels entitled to. Or what one person feels like is enough might not be enough for another. For someone who's grown up maybe in poverty, and they feel like, hey, I've done what I've had to do, whatever that may be, honest or dishonest, and now I've acquired $50,000 is my net worth. And then you've got someone else who was raised on $50,000, but they have more intellect, and they feel like, no, I want $250,000, and that'll be when I feel comfortable to my net worth. So whatever that level of comfortability is really depends on the person. This also comes out if you just feel like your items aren't being treated well. Like I said in the beginning, you could be angrier than the average person. For example, like let's just say your friend comes over and like they bring their child and their child breaks something. Even after you have like as an adult understood like, okay, they were a child, they broke it, it was an accident, I gotta replace it. Or even if the friend replaces it, it doesn't matter. You'll just be way angrier and like more off in your mood and your energy than a normal person would be. Like a normal person would be like, oh, they're a kid, like whatever. You can't do that. I remember one time and my dad, he has his own business now, but he used to work for someone else. And there was a coworker of his and he had a piggy bank, and I thought it was so cool. I was like 6 years old. And it was like a clay kind of sculpture, and you would put the penny in, and there was a man, like a sculpture of a man, and you would hit a button and he would swing back his golf club mechanically and hit the penny, and the penny would roll and it would go into the thing. And I thought it was the coolest thing, and I always ask, every time I went to work with my dad, I'd be like, can I look at it? Can I see it? Can I play with it? Can I put pennies in it? I always would. And one day we're on the staircase, and this is like a Mars in second house worst nightmare. We're on the staircase and we're walking up, and he's moving his desk, and he said, I said, can I hold it? Can I carry it to the new office? And he said, no, this is very important to me and I don't want you to drop it. And I was like, oh, no, please, 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 I won't drop it, I promise. Please just let me carry it. I love this thing so much, I just wanted to carry it to the office. And I remember he said, okay, don't drop it. And I said, I won't. And he put it in my hand. I swear to God, I don't know what happened, but all of a sudden, it was on the floor in 1,000 pieces. And he was just like, and I could tell like he was fighting all of these things. I could tell he didn't really want to let me hold it in the first place. And then the fact that I was like, I won't break it, which seemed like his worst fear, and then I broke it. And he didn't act mad, and my dad was like so bashful, and he's like, I'm sorry, we'll try to get you something else. But it was like a rare, it wasn't something that you could just go and buy another one in the store. It was rare. And this was like 20 years ago, so it's not even like you could like go on Amazon or Etsy and order one. So that's just an example of like a second house Mars just being like, my things, and then just people in the world just being unaware of how much that really affected that person. You also, as a second house Mars, value Martian objects. You value, first of all, your strength and your physical ability and your stamina. You're someone who's like, hey, I'm proud to say, I could do 100 sit-ups. I could do 100 push-ups without having to stop. You're proud of your physical ability. I got in a fight with 2 people and I won. You're proud to say stuff like that. You're proud to be like, hey, I can walk in the sun for 2 hours. I don't need any water. You're very proud of your Martianness. You also be very proud of your Martian things. If you have Mars in the second house, I mean, what's in the second house is going to describe the type of things that you buy. And so if you have Mars in the second house, you're going to buy probably a lot of aggressive things. Probably weapons. You might have rare or antique guns. swords, battle gear, just like things that you might go to war with or be more aggressive with. You'll have those, but they may be luxury or very antique and therefore being more expensive. Sorry about the music. And finally, these are people who probably gamble, bet a lot on sports, especially fire signs, which we have Aries, Leo, or Sagittarius. And so the lesson of this planet is really to like focus on sharing and focus on not being so stingy, focus on earning your money and your possessions through honest means. If you have to like anything that's like a crime to gain something, or if you have to betray someone or just use like underhanded tactics, probably not worth whatever you're trying to do it for. And that'll help your ego to not be so dependent on what you have, because in any human's life, they will have financial ups and downs, and you'll probably have been lacking at some point in your life, and you'll probably be at some point again in the future. And you should not resort in those times to taking from others or to feeling entitled to things that aren't yours. You just have to make do with what you have. And then your ego can focus on being proud of your more like Martian efforts, like your physical ability, so you can like really start working out or working hard or starting a business, that type of work. But to just not be so underhanded or aggressive when it comes to things. Once you focus your efforts in those areas, you can start to be boastful, but in a different way. Not of, oh, I have like Louis Vuitton sneakers, or I have a charger, or, you know, not in those material things, but you can say, well, I have a 4-foot vertical jump, or I can do 50 push-ups and, you know, without stopping, or whatever it is to you. That's what you can start to be proud of and focus on. And that's how your ego can lead, in a sense. That's its talking points and not necessarily what you have. And you can be more truly proud of your like solo efforts to get your wealth. You can, you know, you're very braggadocious about what you have. You can say, I worked hard, I worked 60 hours a week to get this, instead of knowing deep down that you may have clocked in or had a friend clock in for you while you were there, or, you know, you might have used some extra PTO and try to finagle things, or request an emergency when it wasn't an emergency. Stuff like that, you know, deep down in your heart, you really didn't earn it. And so you can learn to be more proud if you do things more honestly and more peacefully of the way you got there. And that can be like a big part of your story. You can be really proud of that. And you probably feel really happy with that. Happier than, you know, bragging on the thing. So this is not a super long video like all of them are. But yes, more videos come soon. All right.